Turron Davenport, a member of the Pro Football Writers Association, Eagles Wire of USA Today, and he joins us now with a look at the Eagles, look back at the Eagles, a look ahead to this week's matchup with Washington. Turron, we got a lot of news surrounding this team here, including the expected suspension of Lane Johnson, and I guess right now, what are some of the options and what is going to be the option at right tackle?
Well, they have multiple options at right tackle. They can move Alan Barber over there, but they're probably going to save from disrupting two positions and have Big V. I don't even attempt to pronounce his first name, Vaitai. But they could put him in. And talking to Brandon Graham last week, he said that he has been impressed with Vaitai, and he is surprisingly athletic. At 6'6", that's a guy that has to be able to move with those defensive ends, the shorter ones like Graham. So he's getting a lot of practice and a lot of preparation going against them. So that's an option. And if they do that, that means, Stefan Wisniewski as well as Isaac Seumalo, those two guys will just continue to be depth linemen, and they'll be able to keep that left guard position there. So that's probably the move that they make. Big V, I think, is capable. He's going to have a tough task going against Ryan Kerrigan this weekend with the Redskins.
Yeah, obviously Barbary was the first option with Wisniewski at the left guard spot. Do you believe that this is their best move? Or if you're in Doug Pederson's shoes, would you have rather put Alan Barbary out at right tackle?
Initially, I felt that Barbary should be the right tackle, but he's played so well at left guard. And obviously, last week was a little bit difficult going against Ashawn Robinson and Loti Nada, but I think he has played well. So you want to avoid disrupting two positions. I think Doug Pederson is spot on with that idea. So you bring in Big V. I mean, I understand he's a rookie, and it's a little bit different than playing at TCU, but I think that he'll be able to hold up, and you just have to do some things to help him out. Have a tight end or a running back chip on the outside linebacker or defensive end, and just make it happen that way.
Hey, Turron, and I'm going to go for it. Halapulivati Vaitai. Not that good, yeah.
Pretty close. Better than us.
But when you go back to training camp, Turron, we're both there every day. And this guy did not take a snap with the second team, never mind the first team. You think about it. Remember when Dennis Kelly was there before the DGB trade? He was the second team right tackle. Then after they made the trade, all of a sudden they were getting ready for Lane's exit and kicked Allen outside. And Lane was taking the second team reps. What makes this team believe that all of a sudden Vaitai can handle the edge in an NFL game against Ryan Kerrigan?
I think it's just a shift in mindset, because if you remember, Carson Wentz at that time, they were saying he probably won't even dress. So, obviously he's a Rookie of the Year candidate now, so things could change in a hurry. And that's one of the things that they said. Pederson, if you remember, he has said that they've watched, he and Coach Stoutland, they've watched Vaitai in practice, running with the scout team, and they like the way that he's been able to hold his own against guys like not Fletcher because it's not inside, but guys like Vinnie Curry, Connor Barwin, and even Brandon Graham. So that has kind of helped him out, and it's one of those things where iron sharpens iron. So going against these type of guys, it apparently has allowed him to progress. But you're definitely right in questioning, okay, he wasn't even with either first or second team during training camp, and now he's a guy you're throwing in there as a starter, and that could definitely cause some problems.
Yeah, Turron Davenport's with us here as we look at the Eagles moving forward with this situation. And just one question on that is, Wisniewski's a guy who has started every game before he came to Philly, 77 games, 77 starts. So he's obviously a capable player, but did the Eagles not view him as a guy, because he's played correct me if I'm wrong, he's been a center virtually his entire career, who's been working more at left guard. Does this, show that they're not comfortable with him, or is this more the other two parts?
I honestly don't know because when Wisniewski came into the league, he was a left guard. That's what he played initially with the Raiders, and then he shifted over to center, and he's just started there, and then in Jacksonville. So I'm very curious why they're not putting him at left guard and moving Barbary over. And I understand you don't want to disrupt it, but I really wonder because this is a guy that has been a proven starter in the past at that left guard position. So that's something that, John, I think we might want to propose that question to Doug Pederson tomorrow and get that answered then.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm sure it'll be lobbed at him. For a minute, though, Turron, we got to rewind, talk about this first loss of the season in Detroit, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. I thought in the first half, there's not a lot of times you can criticize Jim Schwartz, but I thought if it wasn't discipline related with Nigel Bradham, I thought it was a mistake to take him off the field in that third drive, especially in the nickel, because Michael Kendricks continued to struggle against Theo Riddick, and that's a difficult matchup. Did you think Jim kind of started outthinking himself, trying to get the more athletic player on the field?
I don't know what he was thinking because I definitely understand that Kendricks is more athletic than Bradham, but let's face it, Nigel Bradham has been one of the bright spots on that defense this year. And to take him out, especially, here's my thing. If a car is running well, you don't tweak it, right? They're the same. If it's not broke, don't try to fix it. And that's what happened. This defense was one of the top, and still remains one of the top 5 in the NFL, so why make a change? Why bring in a guy who has played uninspired football? That's my problem with that decision. And you saw the uninspired football, especially on that 3rd and 11, when Theo Riddick, he got the first down, but Doug Pederson challenged it. But that effort to make that tackle was terrible. And tackling is a thing, you have to want to do it. And it just seems like he doesn't want to be on the field. I'm talking about Kendricks. And that being said, why put him out there? When you have a guy, when Nigel Bradham got in that game, he played like a man on a mission. He was possessed, and the play that he was bringing as far as getting tackles for loss, as far as slicing through the block, because you saw what they were doing. They were bringing in the tackle eligible, plugging him in at the left side, stacking that left side, and just running the football. But Bradham was able to knife through those blocks and make the tackles, and that's the want to. That's the need to make a tackle, and that's what you get from him, and that's not what you got from Kendricks. I definitely question that move. You look in the second half, I think it was a total of 45 yards that they got, 3 points. I mean, it was a totally different team in the second half with Bradham in the game regularly.
Turron Davenport's with us, USA Today, Eagles Wire. And Turron, the officiating was much discussed after the game. Did you think the officials had a factor in the ball game? And then what did you think of Doug's response to the officiating?
I love the response that Pederson had. He acknowledged that it was bad, and he just said it. At the end we couldn't overcome it. They tried to overcome it, but they came up short at the end, and that's pretty much what had happened. And you look at some of the calls. I mean, Jason Kelce was out of bounds and in contact with the football. That play should have been ruled dead right then and there. But unfortunately, human error came in and multiple human errors because they called it that way on the field. And then the booth, the play-by-play review, they let it go also. So, I mean, I think the officiating was bad. That chop block that was called on Darren Sproles was not accurate. I think there was a pass interference call on Nolan Carroll where contact is going to happen, especially when you have physical receivers. So I question that as well. Ineligible receiver downfield. Here, the ineligible receiver was one of the Lions. And last time I checked, baby blue and white with green letters are 2 different colors.
We're talking to Turron Davenport.
By the way, that is almost... I mean,
just
that guy should never step on the field again for
Right.
actually admitting that he did not know who was on offense.
They didn't know who was on offense. It was like a peewee.
That's a disgrace.
Well, he told Jim Caldwell came out and said that he was told that the official that made that call thought that one of their players was the ineligible receiver downfield.
Unbelievable. Now, Doug has had some really good game plans so far this season, Turron. What did you think of his game plan on Sunday, and did you like that call by Doug Pederson on the play to Matthews where he ran out to his right?
I did not like that call, actually. I'm a believer of it. Third and short, north and south is the way to go. I don't believe in going east and west horizontal at all, especially in that situation, right? You don't even want to go near the sideline because you want to stay in bounds because you want them to use up the clock. It's shoot-or-shoot football. That's what they've been doing. Shoot-or-shoot, running the ball down the field, and a part of doing that, especially when you don't have Haloti, their best defensive tackle in the game, get behind your guys. Show your offensive line, your interior guys, especially Brandon Brooks, Kelsey. Show these guys you believe in them. Run behind them. And that's not what he did. And it's always 20/20, hindsight. But at the same time, me personally, I would have just charged forward instead of going horizontal. So, no, I don't agree with the call. I do like some of the other calls that he made as far as especially the touchdown to Josh Huff. I like the way that they had the receiver stacked on that side, ran that double slant, and Matthews kind of screened, and Huff made a tough catch in traffic. I like that. It's just unfortunate that one call, the sweep on that situation, overshadowed a pretty solid game plan that Pederson had. And then just the fact that they were able to rally 20-plus unanswered points, that is a testament to the coach, especially them not breaking down on the sideline, pointing fingers, and having issues. That's a testament to the whole coaching staff, the leadership on that team. And unfortunately, all of that is overshadowed by the fumble, by the interception at the end.
And that interception, Turron, that's despite all what you mentioned, the fumble, the bad call, possibly the dead ball missed. Eagles still had a chance to win this football game. Plenty of time. All they needed was a field goal. Where are you on Carson's decision to take the big shot that early and basically have back-to-back turnovers? How did you feel about that decision?
I'm all for the decision. And I personally feel aggressiveness is not something that you turn on and turn off. If you want a quarterback that's going to be a gunslinger, that's going to make it happen, don't tell him not to do it. And he said it. When they broke the huddle, he saw an alert. Aguilar said he saw the alert also, so he knew to understand that ball is very likely to come to him. I honestly think that the ball, if it was more inside and upfield, it would have been a big play. It would have been a completion. But as Carson said, he let it go a little outside on him, and that's how Slade was able to make that play. But, Aguilar, and having been in that situation, I understand, because so many people are going to say, oh, he should have fought for the ball better. He has to give better effort. Well, here's the thing. When you're running for a pass, especially one that's supposed to be a post, you're gearing towards that route that you're supposed to be running. So the ball is thrown, you turn, and you're locating the football. And I talked to Aguilar about this. He tried to fade to the football. That's, as a receiver, you're always taught, if it's thrown outside, you want to fade to the football. He was trying to fade to the football and locate it at the same time. He was a bit off balance when he was doing that, and didn't get the opportunity to go up and high point the ball the way you're supposed to as a receiver. Now, Slade was outside of him, and that's further proof of how the ball, if it was thrown downfield inside, would have been a completion. So all that being said, I don't like the throw that Carson did, but I do like the fact that he took that shot and tried to break their back with that one play. I cannot be mad at that.
Turron Davenport, USA Today. I actually echoed that same sentiment yesterday. Was, you haven't taken that shot virtually the entire year. I don't remember them chucking the ball 50 yards down the field at that spot. Maybe you catch that team napping, and a guy who has been pretty much perfect all season long. You're hoping that if he doesn't make the perfect throw, that at least the worst thing happened. It got picked off there. But I kind of agree with you. I don't mind taking that shot. Here's something I do want to get your opinion on, Turron, is Matthews fumbles. He's been kind of banged up. He had the concussion issues last year. I was a huge advocate last year that he deserved more playing time than Murray. I thought he was clearly the best back last year. But is that clear now? Does he give them the best chance to win games featuring Ryan Matthews?
I think he is their best back, but I think he's a guy that you have to kind of go about it with a committee. And with the way that Kenjon Barner and Wendell Smallwood are able to run. I think that gives you a nice mix, whereas you could run outside. Like that play that they called on that 3rd and 2, I would have used Barner on that. I would have used Sproles on that because they have more speed to get to that outside. And then, I mean, you had the whole situation set up in a similar way to Barner as far as where he got a couple 14, 12-yard gains. So I think they need to mix it. But I do think Matthews is their best back because he's kind of a blend of everything that they have, whereas he brings the pass-catching skills out of the backfield. He can bang it inside. He can get outside at times, with the right blocking set up for him. And I think that he's their most complete back.
Did you like how they worked the tight ends? Because that was the first time we saw all 3 of them active. And is there more they can do there? Because it did seem like the tight ends disappeared a little bit.
That was the one matchup that I thought they had an absolute advantage with. Now, Antoine Williams is a guy I remember from the East-West Shrine game, and he's, 6'4", 235, somewhere around there. And I loved his movement skills, but he's a rookie. So I like Zach Ertz matched up against him, even if Williams has to pick him up in his zone. That's something I would have went to a little bit more. They went to that initially to kind of settle things down on the offensive side, but you got to keep feeding your beast. Zach Ertz is the first read on a lot of those plays, so they really needed to go to them. They have a nice package for Burton, and Burton Selleck is a sure-handed possession guy that you could go to also. I wanted to see more of those level type of throws, those 3-level reads that they give Carson Wentz, and they could have done that a lot more with those tight ends alone, and they didn't. And Pederson said that that's something that they would have liked to have gotten to more, but sometimes the game plan just gets away from you, especially when you go into a hornet's nest like they did, man. Ford Field was loud, and it was difficult to get things going the way that they wanted to. But once they did, that's when I said it. I tweeted it during the game. I said, it's quiet as a church mouse in here. And that's pretty much, when you have the momentum, that's what happens. But it just they got away from the game plan a bit initially.
Talking with Turron Davenport, USA Today's Eagles Wire, does a great job covering the Birds. Turron, I wanted to talk, we mentioned Nigel Bradham on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive line, been lights out the first 3 games. I thought they also struggled a little bit early, with the exception of Brandon Graham, who was tremendous throughout. Obviously, in the second half, that turned around. Jim Schwartz talked about the sneaky athleticism of Matthew Stafford during the week leading up to the game. Do you think the discipline in the pass rushing lanes was in there in the first half?
It was tough. I mean, I don't know that it was there 100%, but I'll tell you one other thing. It's always difficult defending a quarterback when he runs when you're in man coverage. Because when you're in man, typically as a defender, not the defensive line, your back is to the line of scrimmage. So you can't really pick up right away that the quarterback's running. And that's what allowed him to turn some of those shorter runs into a bit of a longer one. As far as the discipline on the passing lanes, I mean, you just got to, give credit to their interior linemen. They were able to neutralize what has been a strength for the Eagles, and that's that interior pass rush. Obviously, Benny Logan had the calf spasms, but it was a tough game for that defensive line as a whole. Vinny Curry didn't get as many reps as he would like to have, obviously, but he did get a sack. But it was tough, and they didn't have the same effectiveness. I could definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I think the snap counts for Curry way down. I mean, he got big money this offseason. I mean, is it fair to ask, has he been disappointing so far? I really was excited when they signed Curry and went back to the 4-3. I hated that 3-4 with the personnel. I don't mind 3-4 if you have the right personnel. I just never thought they had the right personnel. But for Curry, I really thought he was going to really get unleashed in this defense, and maybe he hasn't been as impactful as I had hoped.
Yeah, I think it's still going to come. He has been pretty good against the run. He's gotten some quarterback pressures. Obviously, his first sack was last week. But the thing that I like about Vinny Curry is the versatility that he gives them. They could do their own version of, you remember the Giants with Justin Tuck and Uzi and Strahan and all those guys. They had their NASCAR package. Well, you could bump Curry inside and let him rush the passer from a D tackle position and have your NASCAR package with Cox, Curry, Connor Baldwin, and Brandon Graham. So he gives you a nice pass rush that you could bring a different look. Obviously, sack-wise, he hasn't had the numbers that we would like to see, but it's a long season. You know, we still got 12 more games to watch this team, so we'll see how he can develop. And these guys, man, I tell you, one of the things with pass rushers, you know, sacks come in bunches. Look at the young man from the Falcons. You know, he had 3.5 sacks, and now he has 3.5 on the year. Look at the guy that came in for the Lions. I mean, he's all of a sudden got a bunch of sacks, 5 on the year. So they come in bunches, and you kind of get into a rhythm and get into that zone, and we just haven't seen Curry exactly in that zone. That being said, I still think he's worth that contract that he got.
Turron, let's move back to the secondary for a minute. Leotis McKelvin banged up again. Now, Doug Pederson's indicated that he will play, but can they count on him? Because that's kind of been his MO, to have nicks and bruises.
Yeah, that hamstring, that's something, once you tweak that, it's the only thing that will help that is time. And unfortunately for him, he had time, and it still didn't help it as much. It crept back up in that game against the Lions. So I don't think that he's as reliable as a lot of people had hoped once he was put at the left corner position. So that just means it's all the more reason to look for Jalen Mills to step up, and I think he's very capable of playing that left corner position. So that's a guy I think they're going to have to count on.
All right, they get ready for Washington. They've won 3 straight. Philadelphia coming in on the second consecutive road game. You can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. The pregame coverage starts at noon. Merrill and Mike have the play-by-play starting at 1. Turron Davenport at the USA Today. And, of course, here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. And you can follow Turron, on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. He covers the Eagles. And we appreciate your time as always, Turron.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.